Fly Girl is a book written by Sherry L. Smith in 2008. This book focuses around women in World War II and the opportunities that arise, as well as the struggles that come with it. Ida May is the protagonist. She's 18, lives in Louisiana, and is the only white girl out of all of her siblings. All she wanted to do was fly, but because she already failed once because she was a woman, and the fact that she has black roots will make it even harder for her to get her license. As the bombing of Pearl Harbor occurs, new opportunities arise. Then in 1943, the Women's Air Force Service Program, or WASP, was initiated. Ida May used her father's old license and pasted her picture on top, then used it to apply and pass as a white woman. In order to do this, she has to lie about who she is and where she came from. She's accepted into the program and begins to train, but then soon realizes how she isn't being true to herself and who she really is, and how she abandoned her family and her ancestors, and how she begins to realize that it's not worth it. In the end, Ida May decides that living a lie isn't worth the price, and that she has to be true to who she really is, a pilot and a black woman, so she reveals her identity. As Virginia Nicholson writes in the book Millions Like Us, there were already openings for women in engineering, in vehicle industries, and in metals and chemicals, page 252. Women were finally given the opportunity to become closer to gaining equality to men. They began working the jobs only men used to work, doing the things only men used to do. However, with all of these new opportunities comes pressure. With many men overseas, the economy relies on the women, and women are expected to keep their focus on their work to hold up the economy. Nicholson writes not only what women did in the war, but the war did to them, and how it changed their subsequent lives and relationships. Page 357. When the women began fighting in the war, they were not fighting for women's rights originally. They were fighting for their country and their families. Even though they only earned a fraction of what men earned, they still fought with the security of their country and their families in mind. Millions Like Us is a non-fictional book that is based on women in particular, and more so on the lives of many women. This book focuses on women working in larger corporations such as factories and especially assembly lines. It thoroughly describes the gender barrier between men and women and the opportunities that divide them. Fly Girl is a fiction novel that focuses mainly on the character Ida May, who has the hopes of becoming a pilot. Because both her gender and her race, being that she is black, this dream is difficult to reach. Both of these books revolve around women in World War II and the occupational effects of new chances that arise for women, and the personal effects being the stress of staying away from their family. Before World War II, women could not speak up in public. They could nearly never get an Ivy League education like men did. They did not have the right to vote, and they could not own their own property. After the war, however, things slowly began to change. Women were more liberated to initialize divorce, and women in the 60s and 70s were increasingly working outside their homes. I recommend these books if you are interested in women's rights because World War II and the WASPs are a major turning point in women's rights. And it was the point that women finally got to actively fight on the home front and defend our country instead of sitting at home. World War II was the point that everything turned, a major point in history. I would recommend to read Fly Girl if you want to connect with women, or one woman in particular, during that time period to understand the emotional struggles beyond what you can read factually. If you would like to find the factual side and the information behind women labor in the factory, I recommend you read Millions Like Us to fully understand the lives of millions of women during this time period. After reading both Fly Girl and Millions Like Us, I can now understand thoroughly different perspectives of women in World War II and how amazing it was that everyone stood together during America's time of need.
Created using Powtoon.